Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Whitbeck, the Joyful Sales Queen, and today I'm joined by our special guest, Peter K. Weiner.
Whiner.
Okay, see there, I already messed it up. It's
It's all right.
Weiner. I am so sorry.
It's
Well,
okay.
I
It
bet you
only
get that a
triggers
lot. I bet you get that a lot.
yeah, it triggers a little childhood trauma. First day of school was a little rough, but
And I probably should have asked you before we started recording.
that's
Well,
okay.
it's all good. So, today we're going to be talking about how video storytelling boosts your company's success. You know, your business story is central to building trust and loyalty among your clients. It demonstrates your purpose, values, and history, highlighting your authenticity and integrity. And in this episode with Peter Weiner, you're going to tell you how video improves your company's storytelling and what you can do to get started. And if you get a ton of value out of the episode, I would love to invite you to subscribe because it costs nothing to subscribe. Now, I want to tell you about Peter, and he is a creative content expert who crafts video campaigns for business owners, speakers, and thought leaders so they can show their stories the right way, driving thousands to their call of action. He is a 4-time Emmy winner and certified business consultant. His company, PKW Media Solutions, creates high converting promotional video packages, long form episodics, and offers workshops for those who want to learn video and storytelling skills. Well, Peter, I am so thrilled to have you on the show today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. And yeah, I mean that pretty much covers it. So I can go home now. No, I story is so important. And what I run into a lot, I'm up in Ogden, and it's a relatively small community. I think 80 or 90,000, but it is rich with businesses and business owners. And what I run into is I'll talk to people and I'll ask them, of course, because I'm running a business. I'll say, how are you promoting yourselves, and what are your videos? And they'll either say, yeah, we have some videos from 2 years ago, or yeah, I have a videographer who has shot some stuff and put some things together. And I'll be like, well, send me a link to your website. Let's see what you got. We'll have the conversation, and I'll look, and I get a lot of nice drone shots with music, and I see what they do, but generally have no idea who they are, why their business even exists, or why I would even want to do business with them. So to me, their video is saying, hey, look, see, I actually do what I say, but I just don't think that's enough to really draw people in. So what I promote, and I use the word narrative a lot, and I'll say, where's the narrative in your videos? How do I know who you are, what you do, why you're doing it, what you can do for me, and what the process is, right? So the first thing is we need to know, with the business, especially small business, we need to know who you are. Number one, because chances are we all think we're special, right? We all think we're the only ones doing what we're doing. Not the case. There's hundreds, sometimes thousands of competing companies. And when people hear your story, suddenly the competition goes down to maybe 10 or maybe 5. In addition to that, I know that most business owners, speakers, coaches, anyone who's getting out there and trying to sell whatever they're selling, their favorite part is not selling ever. And so if you have a video that can get you to the place where when you're having your first conversation, it's as if it's your fourth or fifth conversation. Because I'm a pretty outgoing person. I'm guessing you are too, Lynn, based on what I see. But I just don't think any of us really want to have those first conversations of what, here's my business, and here's why you want it. And those are not comfortable conversations, because we want organic relationships, and we want somebody to really, I think, from our side, we want them to really know and understand what we do and why we're different.
Yeah.
And to not have to explain that in a 20-minute conversation, and have, like, sales breath, which is the last thing any of us want. I think video is a really great tool for that. And it's really great at figuring out who your avatar is, and who you're interested in talking to, because we forget, it's like dating, right? When you start going out on a date, and you're like, you're 18 or whatever, and you're like, I hope she likes me. I hope she likes me. And then you hit a certain age and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't matter. What matters is whether I like her or not. It's kind of
Well, that's a lot of fun way to look at it. I will say that I definitely don't advocate ever starting a conversation with "It's all about me and my business and what I do and how I can help you." I never pitch. That's sort of like Ned Ryerson in Groundhog Hog Day. And if you ever saw it back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth and it was in the movie theaters, the
yes.
audience cheered when Bill Murray slugged him in the face. So you know, I always start sales conversations out of a place of curiosity to learn more, but using the video is certainly going to prepare people and have a better understanding of what, um, who you are and what it is that you do. And if it's really helping build that like, know, and trust factors up front.
Right. And a lot of the people, like, I know a lot of the people in our circle and how we met are speakers, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know, Lynn, I know you do a lot of live speaking, and that used to be part of my routine. And then I realized, no, I'm gonna focus on just sending the videos out because that's what I do. My identity is not really as a speaker. I can, but for those who are speakers and those who do have um, their 20-minute speech, TED Talk speech or whatever you want to call it, those those speeches and the information in those translates so easily and so well to video. And I'm not talking about a video where you're standing in front of a crowd and giving your speech. I'm talking about a video where you have a 30-second version of that first, and then you have a minute version, and then so it really has to do with immersion. And um and also with speaking, if you have an intro video as a speaker that is shown before you go on, you don't have to rely on somebody, well, maybe mispronouncing your name or, or, get, or getting something wrong in
Oh,
an
yeah, because
intro.
I get it a lot too. So I'm so sorry that happened. But
No, I'm just being, I'm just joking about that. But, it's great to have a video that you have control of, and exactly, you have the time to hone it and get it perfect, and it's going to be perfect every time. And people like it. People, if imagine you're at this weekend or whatever it is where there's a bunch of speakers, and you've seen 100 people get up and say, hey, I'm Joe Schmo and this is what I do. Suddenly, oh, there's a movie, awesome, let's, that gets your attention. And then they come up and they don't have to introduce themselves and they can get right to it. So
yeah,
I think it's a real plus from both sides. And it really works. It really works in all venues, whether you're a business owner that doesn't like being in front of a camera or whether you're a speaker who loves being in front of the camera. It's just, I enjoy working both. And whether you're going from point A to point B or whether you're going from point X to point Z, it's a great process, and it's always a growing process. Your first video is your worst video. Your best video is the last one you did. Always,
yeah.
almost always.
Well, I really want to take a step back, Peter, because this it's so intriguing to me that you have 4 Emmys and now you do these storytelling videos, for businesses,
Mhm.
business owners, entrepreneurs. I'd love you to tell me a little bit of background on that because I think everybody's curious.
Sure. So I worked at ABC for 22 years. I was a producer, editor, and I did a couple shows there. One was kind of like a What to Do in LA show called INLA, which had been around for a while before I showed up, and I don't think it's around anymore. But um, what was great about that, and the way that ties into what I do now, is a lot of what we did on that show was kind of featured the local businesses in LA,
Yeah.
which, in LA is such a huge market. It doesn't really feel that local. It feels pretty national. And then we also did some national stuff like, red carpet shows and things like that. So, I was staffed there. So we did a lot of stuff. But I got the Emmys for INLA and another show called Vista LA, and a special, which is like one of the most favorite things I ever did. It was called The Legends of Laurel Canyon. And it
Oh,
was all about all of the musicians and artists who lived up in Laurel Canyon from like the mid 60s through the early 70s, and how the Manson murders changed it all, and
oh,
who was sleeping with who and what music was coming out, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a nice, I think it was a two part half hour special, double half hour. It was a full hour. And man, that was so much fun. I got to talk to, this was probably about 13 years ago. So a lot of the folks were still around or weren't so sick that they couldn't interview. So it was a really good, it was kind of the last window to really be able to interview, Mickey Dolenz, and, Frank Zappa was gone, but his wife was still around, and the photographers that were doing the album covers and stuff like that. So, I would say that my style that I've developed, my storytelling style, is based on short
Yeah.
documentaries. And I think that short documentaries, several within the body of, say, a half hour or full hour show or special, is really what gets a story deep.
Yeah.
And if you can get the sense in 3 minutes that you've watched a half hour documentary on someone, then that's a really successful way to tell a story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm actually really intrigued about this. So I'd love to know how you go about creating a video campaign for a business. Like what's the process? So I want to
Sure.
know how that comes about.
Okay, so if let's say I'm working with, and I've worked with a few companies around here. Let's just pick a roofing company as an example. So I worked with a roofing company about 6 months ago, and we did a 4-month campaign. And what that looked like is I wanted to come up with 4 narratives that would cover the topics that the business owner, because I was working directly with the business owner, and it's about a $10 million business, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's doing great. Um, so we came up with 4 different narratives. I don't think I can remember all of them offhand, but 2 of the major ones. The first one was kind of like, here's why we're different. Here's the service you get. Here's why the service is better. Another one, which this one was super popular because it was dramatic. It was like, we get crazy storms in Utah, and this is what these storms do to your roof. And here's a bunch of people that were in trouble, and here's how we bailed them out. And it was still affordable and all that stuff. But it was really coming at it from the angle of, this is a dangerous, dramatic situation. And of course, there were storm clouds and dramatic music and sound effects, and not super cheesy, but enough where it had that documentary feel where
Yeah.
it got your attention, and you were like, wow, what's going to happen? And that drew a lot of people into his business as well. So that was kind of the thematic approach. From a technical perspective, the way I did it is I essentially took an entire day and did all the interviews with everyone I needed to do the interviews with. And those interviews are the epicenter of the videos. So if you think about it like building a house, and I
Yeah.
do, I think of my video timelines like building a house. The foundation are those interviews. It's the story. How do you make 2 minute, 2.5 minute stories, 4 different ones, out of these interviews? And you have those in mind while you're doing it. Then the same day you're shooting all the B-roll, you're getting all the shots of the roof, you're getting the drone shots, you're getting whatever videos they have, because most businesses already have a whole arsenal of videos to draw from. So if you have those, that's great too, because you can build some history. And then you build that, you build the B-roll, and then you figure out the music, and then you figure out the effects. And by the end, you have a television quality video. And the longer form videos are not the first thing that your potential clients see. They're the last thing that
Yeah.
your potential client sees. So from those, we make a smaller cuts, 15s, 11s, 30s, 60s, and all those go out to the different social media formats that attract the client. But it's coming from a narrative place, and it's a lot easier to take something big and make it small,
Yeah.
because the small thing that you're creating has a rich epicenter, a rich um,
Yeah.
origin.
Nucleus. Yeah.
Yeah. And from that origin, you can create multiple things. And when you see short videos that are that rich, it's like, oh, I'm intrigued. I want to know the story. I want to know, oh, this person got caught in a storm. What happened? Or, oh, they're different because they don't leave nails around in your driveway when they're done, or whatever it is. So that's kind of a technical example of how it works. And every business is different. So I'd like, because I would love to systemize and make this easy for myself, but it's hard to do that because every client is different, every story is different. And I'm most interested in telling the story that the business owner or the business representative that's on camera really wants to and needs to tell. So there's a fair amount of conversation before we even show up and set up a shooting schedule and do all that other stuff. Because if you're not on target with that, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there could also be a number of different challenges that business owners face when thinking about video storytelling, that they come to you like, well, what about this or that? I mean, what do those conversations look like?
Yeah, there's different ones. I think the number one challenge is I don't like myself on camera. I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. I've tried this before and I looked like a fool and I drove people away. Probably not true, but that's the way people think. I do have a saying that supports that actually. It's bad video is worse than no video. And that is true.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't take a lot to get used to being on camera enough and forgive some of your own self biases when you're watching it, because there's very few people that like their voice on camera. And there's actually a reason for that. We don't hear our voices through our ears. We
Yeah.
hear them through our skulls. It
Yeah.
sounds a little weird, but it's true. So we all sound much more rich and bassy to ourselves. And then we hear ourselves on video. We all sound nasal and flat because we're not used to hearing ourselves the way other people hear us. So like when I watch this video, I'll be like, I sounded like that. It's just how it is. So that's a big obstacle. And one of the ways to get over that is to just, one is maybe bite the bullet and just do it anyway. But another is, I have e-courses and stuff like that that kind of teach you how to tell a story and how to practice in front of a mirror and how to feel comfortable and how to figure out whether, are you the type of person that likes to read directly off the script? Or are you better off coming up with concepts and working off of a timeline? Or are you just, do you just, can I just throw you in the pool and you're going to be able to swim and it'll be great? It just depends. Also, that's if you're doing it yourself. If I'm interviewing you, or if somebody in my company's interviewing you, we're asking some very specific questions. And the beauty about video and technology now is it doesn't matter how many takes. It doesn't matter how many times it takes you to get it right. None of that stuff matters. So if you do it 5 times, by the fifth time, you're going to be so sick of doing it that you're going to do it well. It's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Well, and also with technology today, you can put two halves together or something.
A-
So, uh,
Absolutely. And yeah, if you're doing a video that's documentary style, you can, yeah. I mean, I'm cutting a whole show that's that way right now. It's
yeah.
essentially it's 10 different people talking and doing stuff and making a story out of it. And that's my personal superpower, is that and getting good interviews out of people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, what should listeners do next about using video to boost their stories?
well, there's a few different ways to go. One, you can learn how to do it, and I can give you some e-courses on how to do that. I can meet with you personally, and we can figure out a program that way if you want to do it yourself. I know this is a local show, and I'm not, well, it's probably national, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
International.
international. Okay. So for those that don't live within a 100-mile radius of Ogden, Utah, I can do a lot of remote work as well. I can get interviews via Zoom, and we can set those up well. I can, and as I said, if you're a business, chances are you have a lot of videos already of what you do, and or you can hire a videographer for a day, and I can guide them on what to get, and then we would put it all together on my side in my studio here in Ogden and do all the post production and really get it looking like a solid video. And I do have packages, preset packages on my website, and those are great. But what usually, I'm just going to be really transparent here. What usually ends up happening is it's really hard to cookie cutter this stuff.
Yeah.
So
No.
you can get a good sense of what you'll get for how much looking at those packages, but at the end of the day, it's a conversation. It's like, okay, let's talk about what you really need and when you need it and where you need it. And those are kind of how the conversations go. So for those that want to do it themselves and have your cousin John shoot their video for them, that's fine. Hope that works out for you. Um, Another, as I said, another is to get guidance from PKW Media Solutions. We've done it a million times. We know what it takes. and we know how to work with your business and who you are to get that story out. Because once that story is told, the rest is just academic.
Yeah.
You know, how do we show it? How do we make it interesting? But if you don't have that story, you have a bunch of random video with music, and we don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that is 90% of what I see out there.
That's true. Absolutely. I have to say, Peter, is there anything you wish that I had asked you today?
You're pretty thorough. I think my biggest obstacle as a business owner and working with businesses is that there's no such thing as a perceived video emergency. You know, you talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I need to film my social media and on my web, you know, I have someone working on my website. We hear that all the time. So, you know, it's all a work in progress. And sometimes people have already spent a lot of money on other aspects of marketing and advertising and sales. And I guess what I really want people to understand is that the media creation process is a separate entity from those things.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a strong presence, a strong story, that these other things are not likely to succeed because there's no cohesive connection to them.
Right.
You can build a social following. Oh, that's cool. You know, he has a standard poodle, and so do I. Great. I'm gonna like it. And you can, you know, you can get people paying attention to you that way. But at the end of the day, if you want people to go to your website and you want people to watch the long form video and have them be excited about seeing it and saying, yes, I want to work with that company. I want to work with that jewelry company because they donate half their money to companies in Africa that have been exploited by other jewelry companies. I identify with that. I want to work with that person.
Yeah.
That's the type of connection you can create through video that having even a robust television campaign or social campaign or your website's all fancy and has great shots in it. But if you don't have that cohesive story that keeps retelling itself and going deeper, then your current clients and your future clients are not going to have that connection that'll bring you to a one and done to a repeat business.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely see it. I mean, Peter, thank you so much for sharing how video storytelling boosts your company's success. I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about you and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, they can stalk me all day. I if they if you want to go to my website, it's pkwmediasolutions.com. Just make sure it's plural solutions. Sorry, it's so many letters. I'm working on that. And when you go there, you'll be able to kind of go everywhere. If once you're in that site, you can kind of see the different packages that we have. You can read the blurbs at the beginning. But I know you guys want to see videos. So what I would recommend is that you go to the contacts link and you start clicking on the YouTube videos, and you'll see a lot of what I was talking about today and a lot of other examples as well.
Yeah. Well, this has been so great. You know, I was so enthralled in this whole interview. I have to everybody who's live, I didn't put a whole lot in the chat. I sincerely apologize because I was like hanging on every word, Peter. So, for all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such an informative discussion. It's fascinating. And Peter, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me. And I look forward to more in the future.
Okay.